Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and what I have for you today is the review of a budget TV that's marketed as a gaming TV. Yes, this is the Acerpure G series gaming TV. It comes with a native 120Hz refresh rate panel, no dimming zones, and I think that's okay considering the price of the TV, because as of me making this video after the GST cut which has happened in India for large screen TVs, the 65-inch variant of this TV is priced at 47,000 rupees and the 75-inch variant is priced at 70,000 rupees. So yeah, if you are looking for a TV under 50k budget specifically for gaming and 120 Hz is important for you, then you can check out this TV. So like I said, this TV does not have any dimming zones, but it does give you decent blacks, which lets me to believe that it is a VA panel. And that's actually fine, because if you talk about the viewing angles, unless you go at an extreme angle, the Acerpure G series gaming TV actually gets the job done quite well for a decent amount of wide seating in case you have a few people over and you guys want to watch a movie. But since this is a gaming TV, we are going to start specifically with the gaming performance of this TV. Now, this TV has 3 HDMI ports if you talk about the connectivity, in addition to the headphones jack and a couple of other ports which you can probably see from the image on your screen right now. But the good thing is that the TV does support eARC in case you want to connect a soundbar to it in the future, and all 3 HDMI ports have HDMI 2.1, which means that you can take advantage of 120 Hz VRR and ALLM on both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, another great thing which pops up when you press the source button on the remote control when you have connected your gaming console is you get this very gamer specific user interface of the TV, right? It tells you whether you have 120 Hz on or not. It tells you whether you're in game mode or not. And it also has a few other gaming specific UI features, which I think is a really nice touch. I mean, you have TVs like Samsung and LG also offering this, and it's really nice to see a very gamer specific UI, especially when the TV recognizes that a gaming console has been connected to it. So let's start with some games. Now, I do connect the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and when you connect the PS5, let's start with that, is you have to calibrate the HDR, right? Where you have this little sun and it tells you to, press the up button so everything's become brighter until the sun merges with the bright white background, and same for the black background, right? You're adjusting the peak brightness and the, black levels of the TV to tell the console, hey, this is what the TV can do. Now, Dirt 5 is a great game that's mastered in HGIG, and this is where things fall apart a little bit, because if you calibrate the console and the TV and play Dirt 5, you will notice that everything is kind of really burnt out, especially where the sun is. And what I would recommend is go back to the HDR settings of the PlayStation 5 and pull it down a few notches, right? Maybe if it's going into the absolute complete brightness, just press down 5 or 6 times. Go back and play a game like Dirt 5, and if you can make out the details of the sun, that means that you have hit the sweet spot. So yes, while the calibration process is not so seamless, once you get it done, games actually start looking really good. I mean, Dirt 5 is a lot of fun. The TV can get nice and bright considering what it's capable of giving you an immersive experience, especially if it's 65 inches and you're sitting, let's say, about 5.5 feet away. You do get that larger than life experience. Astrobot is again another great game, and while you will have to spend almost 10,000 rupees more to get a TV like, let's say, the Thomson QD mini LED TV with dimming zones, which I have reviewed on this channel, that TV only comes with a 60 Hz panel. This TV has a native 120 Hz, and while the colors look slightly more muted than I'd like, it's not actually a bad experience. I mean, I really enjoyed playing Astrobot, and some of the more colorful levels do look really nice on this TV. However, just to judge the color performance, I did put the TV and the console in SDR to see if SDR made a bigger difference, and I found a very unique problem is that when I played games in SDR, as I can show you from this clip of Astrobot, you can make out that the absolute top of the TV has a bit of screen tearing, and that can get pretty distracting. It wasn't a one-off, because whatever games I played in SDR, the screen tear was there for quite some time and it was quite distracting, so I had to go back and play my games in HDR, and that kind of seemed to eliminate the problem. I hope that Acer can fix this problem with a software update in the future, but as of now, if you're going to play some games in SDR, only if you manually force the console and say, no, switch off HDR completely. Because if the game is not in HDR, and a lot of games are there which are, by default, especially the older ones which are in SDR, and you put HDR to auto, which is not always on the PS5, then you don't face this problem. So I think it's just kind of a bit of a bug with probably the HDMI transfer, but it's nothing that actually deterred from the overall experience of this TV. Because a game like even Gran Turismo 7, right, because the TV has a VA panel, and I play this race which is kind of in the night sequence in Gran Turismo, the blacks look nice and deep without any loss of details. That's what some of the mini LED TVs face this problem, but the budget mini LED TVs like the Thomson and the Lumio that I've reviewed on this channel, but this TV didn't seem to have that problem. I could make out all the details. Of course, the trade-off is no dimming zones, but it is a very good experience even when I put off all the lights in this room to play some games. Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, right? Another great game which has great primary colors. It has reds and blues in Spider-Man suit, and when you're flying through the city, everything looks nice and immersive and bright, and once you've calibrated the HDR correctly, you do get that sun also really popping nicely on this TV. It's a good experience. And of course, the same is for Ratchet and Clank, and both Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank out here do support the 120 Hz mode on the TV, which means that if you are playing Ratchet and Clank, you can play with the ray tracing and the 120 Hz with the 40 FPS enabled, and any of the other games that support 120 Hz will let you take advantage, and that is where this TV shines. Because let's face it, there are not a lot of games on PS5 that will hit the 120 Hz FPS, but yes, the ones that give you a slightly uncapped frame rate, you can enjoy those games thanks to VRR, and the games that support the 40 FPS mode thanks to the 120 Hz mode on the TV, you get that experience as well, which is absolutely immersive. Moving over to the Xbox side of things, the HDR story remains the same, because if you calibrate the console and the TV based on what you're seeing on the TV, Xbox actually gives you a better before and after kind of a look for the TV, right? So the before and after looked identical on this TV, which meant that the calibration wasn't exactly successful, and I had to go back and pull the brightness down 5 to 7 points just to get that really great experience. And like I can tell you that once you actually calibrate this TV, it is a great experience. So speaking from a calibration standpoint, you have a game like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, where you have Ori who's nice and bright in the center of the screen, and you have this dynamic environment all around you with really punchy colors, and in some cases the environments are really dark, or you have these really vibrant colors, and they all look absolutely fantastic on this TV. It was a good experience even to play a game like Ori, especially when I switched off all the lights. I did keep one light on even in the darkness as bias lighting in the corner, just because I don't like to play in complete darkness. But yes, because of that, there was almost no blooming or haloing on this TV. Doom: The Dark Ages, again a game that needs you to have really fast reflexes, and I found myself really enjoying that game. Again, because of ALLM, I could enjoy this game and play a lot of the fights at higher difficulty, which on other TVs I would actually have to drop the difficulty. So just give you a bit of an example that, the response time of the TV is also actually fairly good. And even Gears 5, right? We come out of this dark environment which has all the details you can make out of it, and even the fight sequence that you get into is really great and immersive. Now the TV, moving out of gaming. So for gaming, I can tell you that overall the experience of gaming on this TV is actually very good. And if that is a primary use case for you, and you are looking for a 120 Hz panel, and you don't mind not having dimming zones, you need that 120 Hz display for PS5 and Xbox Series X, and you can definitely go ahead and consider this TV. Now let's move on to a little bit of everyday content viewing. The TV does support HDR10 and Dolby Vision. And to put things into perspective, I would say just whether you're watching content in HDR or in SDR on the TV through basically streaming service apps, or even through your set-top box, I would say keep it in HDR cinema or the normal cinema mode, because it kind of gives you that slightly warmer tone. If the brightness feels a little low, I would say put the brightness up to 100%, but keep it in cinema, because it does give you the warm tone which is important to enjoy movies, and I think that was a great experience. A show like Fallout on Amazon Prime, I can't actually show you the footage for copyright reasons, but let me just show you this one still image which I'm always talking about when I talk about this show. Is when the protagonist is leaving the vault for the first time, you see the bright sun coming in, and in a lot of budget TV, sometimes you kind of lose the details of the protagonist because the sun is so bright. But because I calibrated the consoles and I used the Prime Video app on the consoles out here, it kind of gave me a pretty good experience to see the protagonist leave, and I could make out all the details, and the skin tones and the costumes actually looked spot on. Same thing if you talk about a movie like Top Gun Maverick, right? You have this really nice dogfight scene at the end, and it's actually kind of immersive, really enjoying this movie on the big screen, because 65 inches can really make it immersive. Like I said, just switch on some bias lighting in the room, and any blooming issues that you might face if you are sensitive to that kind of stuff, it will go away. Yes, there is a very little bit of light bleed in some of the corners from the backlighting of this TV, but it's nothing that actually ruined the experience. It does have standard white backlighting, as I can show you from this picture that I clicked off the panel by really zooming into it, so you can see the RGB layer which is on top of the backlighting, and it actually kind of gave a pretty good experience. The same thing in SDR, right? Like a movie like Mission Impossible, you have this nice desert chase sequence on the motorcycle, and the skin tones look nice, the content looked immersive. Same thing for Young Sheldon, right? Keep it in cinema, you get this nice warm tone on the skin tones, and it's very immersive. So if you are someone that's going to watch movies or TV shows on this TV apart from gaming, you are going to get a very good experience. Now the only point that I have to make is, for some reason, all the modes in this TV, whether it's through the inbuilt streaming services or HDMI connection, the TV goes into an energy saving mode out of the box, and I would recommend you go into the picture settings and switch to whichever picture profile you like best, and switch off any form of MEMC or motion smoothing to give you that more natural looking experience. Speaking of the remote control, it's easy, it's simple to use, it gets the job done. I have no complaints out here. It has a button that lets you actually put some custom shortcuts, which is nice. It's not something that I used during the course of my review, but it's nice to see that the option is there in case you want to have some custom controls. Before we get into the sound of this TV, the audio output of this TV, let me give you a demo of some copyright-free music and some of the games that I played, so you get an idea of what this TV sounds like. Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left.
Clear, at least for now.
So now that you've gotten that audio demo, I'd like to tell you that this TV has almost no bass. I played a game like Doom the Dark Ages, and as you can see, while the background score is there and the thump of the guns is there, you just miss that bass. But the TV does get loud. So when I was watching maybe a movie or playing a game like, let's say, Spider-Man or Gran Turismo, if you want, you can bump up the volume of the TV. You can make out all the dialogues in the movies and TV shows and the games that you are playing. The TV can get really loud, and for a casual viewing experience, or if you're someone that games with headphones and you don't want to wear your headphones for some time, the TV speakers get the job done pretty fine, pretty well. You don't really need to upgrade to a soundbar unless you have the full family sitting and you are going to enjoy watching a movie. Yes, I know there are a lot of homely situations that happen where the fan comes on and the fan is on full speed, and that kind of muffles the audio from the TVs, but that's the case everywhere. I mean, if you watch content on any screen and you have a lot of ambient noises, it is going to affect the sound output from the TV. In the case of this TV, the only problem I have is the lack of bass, which is not expected from a TV at this price point, but the fact that you're getting pretty clear audio output is something that's nice, and of course it supports eARC if you need to connect an external device. The build quality of the TV is fine. The ports are slightly outward, which means even if you wall mount this TV, you aren't putting your hand right at the back to kind of reach the connectivity options. So considering the price point of a 65-inch TV with a native 120Hz panel targeted at gamers, for gamers, giving you all the gaming features including a UI, I think the TV is a great deal. I mean, for 50K getting a 65-inch screen, and I'm recording this at the time when Ghost of Yote is out, and it's an amazing game to play, especially if you have a big screen for those big vistas and big duels. I think it's a great option for those of you that are on a tight budget. Yes, if you don't mind a 60 hertz display and you want slightly better picture quality, you can consider something like the Thomson QD Mini LED TV, which is priced at about 10,000 rupees more than this TV. I have reviewed that TV as well on this channel. You can go and check out the gaming performance of that TV as well. But remember, that has a 60 hertz panel, which is a compromise on the frame rate, but it has a Mini LED with dimming zones, which is an advantage over this TV. So it honestly just depends on your requirements and your budget. But for 47,000 rupees, 65 inches, and the features that this TV offers, I think it's a worthy consideration, especially if you want a big screen gaming experience. So there you have it, guys. That was my review of the Acerpure G series 65-inch gaming TV. As always, you can let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section below. And for more from the world of technology, home entertainment, and gaming, you can subscribe to the channel. This is me, Samir, signing